Hi. So it's the first day of spring, and I wanted to do something fun and silly and bright. So we're going to do this little sketchbook exercise. I'm going to do it on a card and then send it out to somebody because I think it's fun. I but I did it in my sketchbook first to see if I liked it, and I think this is just it's fun, it's simple. I and I think it will make it something that you're kind of proud of, and it's a nice little pun. It's a jelly jar. So when people want jelly, do they want jellyfish or do they actually want like strawberry jelly? I realize it's goofy. You could paint the jellyfish to look like a strawberry. That actually would be really fun if you had the right colors and you put the right colors in and then little black spots to make it a jellyfish, a strawberry jellyfish. That's actually really cute. I might do that some other time. I'm going to stick with the colors that I planned on for today, though. I so we're going to do the background of our jar in Dr. P.H. Martin's. We're doing the liquid watercolors again. I'm having a lot of fun with them. They show up really well. They're really exciting to work with. So we're going to do a turquoise blue, orange. If you don't have orange, amber yellow will work fine. Moss rose, black, and then I am going to use bleed proof white, and I'm going to use gold. If you don't have gold, you can use something else for the lid. It's totally fine. But this is where my brain went, and so this is what I'm painting. I hope you guys have fun. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. I have already transferred the image onto my little 4x6 card. There is a lot of blank space on this. I probably could have done it up a little higher. I think what I'm going to do is add in like a little table here. And then maybe we can do a little bit of a background thing. But let's focus on the jellyfish first, and then we'll see what needs to happen. That's kind of where my plan is. If you want the outline, you can get that at drunkenauntwendydesigns.com. Just click on watercolor outlines and look for jelly jar. I am using the Dr. P.H. Martins. These are old. They've been on here for a while, but it's watercolor. So you just have to get them wet. And you can see they're all just like moving around. They're like, yay, we're wet. So you get them re-wet, you reactivate them, and then you use the colors that you want. You can also just wash this off and get a new plate if you want. These are plastic plates that I got from our local grocery store. I am going to use a 6 and a 2 for this. I don't normally use the 2, but I want to use the 2 because it works really well for little fine lines and details. And my 6 is getting a little clunky and doesn't make those lines as nice. You can also go super light and use a smaller brush, or you can use pens. And then we have the PH Martins. It is already hydrated, so we're good with that. And I have some table salt. Yes, I just cranked the lid into that. It is sea salt. We're going to just do a little bit with that. And I have a hair dryer to dry things out. Yes, I know this palette looks like a mess. Find the colors that you want. You do not have to do them in my colors, but this orange plays really well with the blue, which plays really well with the pink, which is what gives us that really bright jellyfish. So there you go. There you have it. What we're going to do first is we're going to get some of this turquoise blue and we're going to tone it down, or we're going to put some purple in it. That was not intentional, but it goes away pretty quickly. So we're going to use this turquoise blue and we're going to do our background of the water that the jellyfish is in. So I'm going all the way up over top the jellyfish to the top of the jar, and I'm covering the jellyfish. It's fine. If you're really worried, you can avoid it, but we're using bleed proof white and we're also using uh, bright colors that will go right over top of that. So that'll be fine. You might want to keep it a little light. You don't have to super focus on getting the color into where the jellyfish would be. Just make sure you get underneath where the jellyfish would be so that we have the water in the background. You could also use masking tape or something. I had to check to make sure I had the microphone on. You know how many times I've done this and I have not had my microphone on? Not this specific one, but paintings in general. And then I have to shoot them again because I am kind of an idiot sometimes. Okay, so we have our base color down. And this is just cotton rag 4x6. You can use any kind of watercolor paper. I like the smaller ones again because they're a little faster. And this stuff loves this paint and will just drink it up so there's not a lot of dry time. I'm darkening the bottom of our jar just to give it that depth and dimension. And then I'm going to add, fix that edge right there, another layer on each side because rounded things tend to be lighter in the center. We'll add the highlight of our, sorry, it sounded like somebody was here. We'll add the highlight on our glass after we're done. So we don't want to cover up what's inside. I'm going to get a little bit more. And I'm going in here and I'm getting this part pretty wet. And I have never tried the salt on this type of paper. Well, I don't know if it will actually work. But I already cranked some into a little dish lid so that I wouldn't have to worry about trying to hit it onto the paper. And I'm just trying to get that in the water, kind of like bubbles. We'll see. It may not work because this paper sucks up the moisture so quickly that we may not get any salt reaction, and that's okay. But know that if you do this on different kinds of paper, you might get more of a reaction. You can see where the salt's sucking some of the color up. We want to give this a second to dry. As we know, I'm impatient, so I'm going to blast it. And then you scrape it off gently with your finger. It didn't do anything. It did. There's a couple little bubble spots, which kind of I like. I lost a little of the darkness down here, so we're just going to do another layer of that. I know it looks a little crazy right now. It's okay. You're going to put in the big shapes first, and then the little shapes, and then the details. It's all good. It's fine. You can't really see a lot when you are painting clear things because, well, they're clear. So we're just going to bring a little bit of that blue up in there just because it wouldn't be completely clear. Okay, so now we're going to paint our jellyfish because we're all dry. Looks like I have had a bit of a chaotic moment with my orange. We need to make sure it's not going to turn green. It may. We're going to move some orange into the pink. And if it's not enough, I'll just get some more. I think I'm going to have to. I think I got too much water on here when I rehydrated everything. Let's see. We're just going to block in the color of our jellyfish first. This can be very loose. So where I kind of scraped it earlier, it leaves a nice, fun, lighter spot, which I love. You can add more lightness when you do it so you get all those different textures. That's really fun how it does that. We're just doing this top portion of the jellyfish right now because this part's going to be darker under here and I need more orange. So I need orange that has not decided that it needs to be blue. That's okay. This happens. That's why you keep paint nearby. But that's too toned down and I want brighter. So we're going to get brighter. And sometimes you practice these on one medium. I practice this in my sketchbook. So I didn't know what was going to happen on this specific paper. I hadn't done it on this specific paper before. Now I'm doing it again, but I am leaving some spots and letting it kind of, letting the colors underneath bleed up so that we have a little bit of a dimension and some fun aspects of that. And again, I'm trying to do it dark on the sides and let it be not as dark on the center. But let's throw some pink in there because we can. That's what we like to do. It is a jellyfish. You can do like spots because it's still wet. And then I want this underneath portion of the jellyfish to be this darker color. Now I'm leaving a little bit of space between the edge and my color that I'm putting down because I don't want it to bleed into all of that that's up there. I want a clean line. And when we work on other things, we'll get there. I realize I just keep saying, we'll get there. We'll get there. We will. I promise. So that's the top of our jellyfish. Yes, I know. It looks like a mushroom. It's okay. So then we're going to blast it with some heat. As you'll notice, as the colors dry, they become less bright. So we want to see how that's going and check in and readjust as things go. Up here, we had some of the orange bleed into the top, which is kind of cool because it looks like a reflection in the water and I didn't have to do any work for it. So we're going to leave that. I'm still with my 6. I'm going to get some more orange. And I'm going to do this part. I know there's like little lines in here. Those are like white fuzzy things. So don't get too stressed. We're just going to get this shape in. I know it looks very mushroom-esque. That's okay. Maybe it's kind of a part mushroom jellyfish. I'm leaving some of that part white. I'm just leaving it open. I am going to come over it with the bleed proof white, but it's going to give you a little bit more dimension and everything else. Then you just come down and you get all of these like thicker tentacles because some jellyfish, and I am not a jellyfish expert, but some jellyfish seem to have this thicker section in the center and then they have a lighter section or the little wispies that come down on the side. So this goes up into the center and then the sides come down and do all this other fun stuff. Okay, so let's get some orange and let's just go back over this. Now the reason I am painting the jar first because I tried this once and I painted the jar and then I put the jellyfish in and if I could just say it was an epic mess. It was just terrible. So as you layer, spots that you didn't put color in before are going to still be lighter and different, which is really cool. And you can get a little closer now because it's not still wet. All right, we're going to wait. We have to have this dry and then this dry. We'll do some details. We want to do this part before we put the, I don't know what they're called. We'll call them tentacles, but these little spinny things, they come down over top of this. So this part needs to be done at the end. So we can do the white now if you're really itching to do the white. So this is the bleed proof white. And I know this is a really quick painting. This is what I want to do is just fun things that are fast so you can get painting in and feel like you've gotten it done. And then I there are words, they're escaping me. And then use these ideas to build on your own and have some sort of uh, all sorts of other ideas on what you want to do. Like I really think I'm going to try a strawberry jellyfish. So since this is a little wet, we can just lay this in and it's going to blend a little. And I'm calling this like a ruffly section. So I just want ruffles. And it's okay if they go over the edge. They're little ruffly things. I really should probably learn what these things are called. But they go all the way down and at least in the design of this. And again, if it looks like a jellyfish, that's really all that matters. It doesn't have to look like a specific jellyfish. Nobody's going to be like, oh, you painted the jellyfish from blah, 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 blah. Unless you want to. Phew! Excuse me. Sorry. So we're going to let that dry, and then I'll probably come in and add a little bit more white to pop that up just a little bit. But while that's drying, let's go ahead and get the base of our lid done. So I have lost my spray bottle. Probably a good thing because I made such a mess with it before. There it is. We're going to spray this. This is a gold calligraphy paint. If you don't have it, you can use a gold Sharpie, uh, a copper Sharpie, any kind of, or you can just make the top of the lid black. I know they make mason jars with black lids. I just like the idea of the gold, and I really love this stuff. But I ordered it off of Amazon a very, very long time ago, and I couldn't tell you exactly what it is. So I'm just going to lay in this lid. And also to let that dry so that we can add shading after we're done. So we're almost done with this. I mean, what's next is details. Let's do a heat blast. Sorry. Hope I didn't make everybody too dizzy there. Heat blast. So we have basically everything blocked in, and now we're just going to do details and puff things up kind of the way we want them. So I want a little bit more white in this section. So I'm just going to, but I'm not going to go cover all of it because I like how that orange and white mixed. And this white is opaque, so you will lose some of your coloring if you go too heavy with it. And while that part's drying, let's mix up like a really light gray. So I'm just taking the black and then I'm pretty much watering it down because I feel like I've lost a lot of the shadows in here and I want to add some shadow. So I want the bottom of the lid to be in shadow. I'm just making that a shadow. I'm gonna put a little bit over here. And again, if you don't want to do this, don't. It's okay. I just want a little bit more shadow. It's what I'm feeling to give it the dimension that I want. I'm kind of dry brushing it on here so it's not too dark. Make sure it goes over your jellyfish though, or you'll lose, it won't look dimensional. And then we're going to put a highlight right over top of this, so don't stress out. Okay, so we want to do a little shading on this side too. You still have that shimmer of the gold, but it all comes through. All right. And want a little bit more up in here. So you know that it's underneath. You can bring that shadow down. There we go. I like that. So now I have to wait, or I have to use the dryer. And so we're going to use the dryer because we are actually almost done. We're going to do our little tentacles here, and we're going to do some lines into our jellyfish. And then we're going to figure out what to do with this table. It's like you need to be kind of careful with the bleed proof white and the heat because it cracks. So don't go too crazy with it. Now I have my 2 or whatever fine liner brush you have. If you have a rigger, that'd probably be really great. I just don't have one. So what I do with my fine thin brush is I take it and make sure it can make the teeny tiny little lines that I want. I check the water and the consistency. So now we're going to do really light lines up and down. Sometimes they'll go all the way. Sometimes they'll stop to give us the dimension of our jellyfish. Okay, then the next thing, to take our little fine line or our light, nice brush, and with light pressure and try to do it as up and down as possible, we're going to put in these little tentacles. And if you don't follow the outline, that's okay. If it skips a little, that's okay. It's just this last little step that really gives us tentacle and fun, and they can be swirly. If your brush starts skipping though, it means you don't have enough paint / water, so you need to get some more. And try not to go too crazy because it's super fun to do that. And I just want to keep putting in tentacles, and I know I should stop. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to get a little bit of the black. Use my paper towel, check my lines. Okay. And I'm going to put little like ridges in the edge of a lid. Sometimes they come down, sometimes they go up. Try not to make them completely perfect. The less perfect, the more fun it is. All right. So now we need to do a tabletop, maybe a little bit of a background while all this dries, and then we can put in the highlights that make this look like a bottle or a glass. I have black, but I don't really think I want to do black for a table. I think I want brown. So I am going to take a little bit of my blue over here to my orange and mix that together. And I'm getting green because it's a very bluey green, uh, a very greeny blue, and a very yellowy orange. So then I'm going to take some of the moss rose and mix that in. And that gives me a brown. So brown is basically just dark orange. You can usually get it by mixing all of your colors together. If you want it darker, you can put in some of the black. I try to minimize the amount of colors that I use. But see, this is a gorgeous orange, brown, a gorgeous brown. And we're just putting it on and then just kind of scribbling it out there. So we don't have just a floating jar. Now, the shadow, since the way that I'm doing this, the shading is on the side, the shadow would pretty much be behind this. So, but if you don't like that and you want to put a shadow in, you can. I just don't think it needs one. I'm going to do another pass at this. And because I mixed it, you can see some of those other colors like popping in, which is super fun. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to go all the way to the edges. It's going to give it interest if it doesn't. Now, for the back, what do we want to do for the back? If we do the straight blue, it's going to blend in. If we do the pink, it's going to kind of pop out a little bit more than we want. So what I'm going to do is take the blue and mix it with the black and get like a navy. More black. There we go. A little more black. There we go. But we're not going to go too crazy with this. Maybe it's a darkened uh, study with a crazy person or a warlock or a witch or something that has their stuff on display, and this is their jar of jellyfish on display. So we're going to kind of do it in a vignette. So we're going to hit the corners. And it doesn't have to go all the way out to the edge of the corners either. This is just, honestly, this is me making it up as we go. So we're just going to see what happens. And I want a larger brush for this because this is taking longer than I want. So I've got a 10 because that's what I have sitting over here. And I am going to start taking that color and pulling it in. Put a little bit more on the sides. Feel free to sing shoot because apparently that's what I was doing. Being careful when I get to the edges of it because I do want it to not be the exact same color as what I've done, and I want it to give the vignette feeling. So I'm coming back in and dropping in some more of this. It'll spread. And if you don't want to do a background, don't. It's okay. It's totally fine. There's no need to do one if you don't. I have a little bit more of the darker in here. I'm going to add that so it spreads. Yeah, we'll call this like a creepy laboratory with the scientist keeping jellyfish in a jar for hopefully not a nefarious purpose, but we never know. Now, I know it looks like we kind of lost the outline of it. We didn't. You get stressed, that's fine. You can come in with a pen and outline the edges. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my 6. There it is. Back to my 6. I'm going to get some white. And I'm going to put in the highlights on the sides of this glass. You take it all the way to the edge. You're going to have them in different shapes and sizes. I know we put all that shadow in and we just covered it up, but it was necessary to have it. And do it lightly. You can do it with a light, like a dry brushing. And if you look at a glass, I mean, I guess I have a glass right here. It doesn't really have a lot of reflections, but this is clear and has reflections. So I'm kind of going by where it's shining and where it would have the reflections on a glass with my light, the way that I have it coming from overhead. I will agree this one looks a little thick, but that's okay. I don't want to go too overboard. So I'm going to go ahead and sign this, and I'm going to call this one done. So this is my jelly jar. I said that. I don't want this pen. I want this pen. I'm going to just touch this up a little, touch up this line a little bit with my black pen. And then I think that's it. I think that's all I want to do. I'm going to sign it down here. If you just wanted to do one jelly jar, if you wanted to do 4 jelly jars, you could do all the jelly jars that you would like. Turn one into a grape jellyfish, which that also sounds like it could be really fun. It's just a bunch of purple jellyfish that are stacked like grapes. This is an idea I may have to try because I think that might be really fun. Inside a jar, I have my sketchbook. That might be the next thing that I think of. But I think all of those are like really fun little ideas. I am thinking I lost some of my detailing on my jellyfish. So I'm very lightly pulling back in these. Making sure I don't do it over top of where the reflections are because you wouldn't see those. But sometimes just a little pen detail can really help pop out what where you're having an issue. Or it can make it worse. I just try not to go too crazy. I think this was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will see you next week. Happy first day of spring. Bye.